Okay, so last class, here we are. Thank you all for being here. A decent amount of stuff to go over. I do want to address any questions you may have with WordPress or Divi, and any other questions you may have related to the actual design of your sites. Happy to help however I can tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday when this is due. So please, make it a point to reach out to me. Call, text, email is fine if you have a question. If you happen to finish your project early, great. Good on you. You can get some sleep tonight, unlike Genesis, who will not be sleeping because she will have an intravenous feed of Red Bull ported directly into her veins. You may never sleep again, actually. Very concerned. Anyway, if there's one thing that I can do for this last class is sort of prepare you for what opportunities you may find over the summer. Now, I don't know what you folks are up to, if you're going to be working or looking for freelance work or doing an internship. But really, you're at the point where you really need to start developing some business savvy and thinking about doing work at the professional level as a professional, doing things that professionals do, like responding to emails in a timely, polite, and considerate manner, or following through on, on doing what you say you will. I'll have this project to you at this point in time, or I'll deliver it to you this way. Even charging for your work, we can talk about that, and that is a concept that requires nuance. But the main thing that I want to talk about tonight is contracts, and I want to show you the contract that I use, and I've provided a few resources for you to utilize on your own. That also includes my sample contract. Okay, so out of curiosity, have any of you ever made a contract or considered using one for a freelance client? A little bit, Alex?
So
Okay.
It wasn't a real contract, but I was asked to help revise the business once.
Okay, that's a good start. So a contract is necessary for the work that you do. The creative services industry, it can be complex, all right? Creative services does not specifically mean graphic design. It could be anything that is creative and production focused. It could be, I made a painting and I'm selling it, or you're paying me to paint a mural, or you're paying me to write body copy for a magazine, okay? And each of those services is handled a little bit differently. I would argue that graphic design takes much more time than some of the other creative services out there. And you need to make sure that the work that you do is protected from multiple perspectives, not just as simple as, oh, this client signed the contract and now they don't want to pay me, okay? Yeah, Malia, the resources that he gave you are the same ones that I use. So you already have them. But I do have an additional one that you can use as well. So these contracts protect you from multiple points of view. And it's not just, you trying to recoup your costs if a client doesn't pay you. It's very complex and it's nuanced. And I'm going to go over it. And at any time, if you have a question, please unmic or unmute rather, and just ask, because I'm not going to be paying as much attention to the chat because I'll need my screens, okay? I've been using a contract since 2007 for every single project, no matter big or small, even if it's a free project. My time has value. My time commands respect from those that wish to hire me. If they are not interested in signing a contract, then that is not someone I want to work for. I have had many great experiences and many awful ones. And regardless of the positive or negative, I want my experiences to act as a cautionary tale for all of you, okay? And even to this day, I still have problem clients, and I've got amazing clients that I've worked with for over 10 years. So let's jump into it. So the contract I'm going to show you is the contract that I use for my clients. And every single one of them has to review this contract. I fill out the information, and then ultimately they sign it. But let's get into it. So this is my contract for work. This is a contract for work between myself, my company, and X person, whoever that is, your client. We're not big on formality, but sometimes it's best to have a few simple things written down so that we're all on the same page. Let me just say that legalese is a huge turnoff, and it could make or break a project. One, yeah, it can be inaccessible to read, but it's also easily misunderstood. So you want to make as much of your contract in plain language as possible, okay? The more you do that, the clearer and more transparent it will be. You and I both understand the term cancel, okay? That's all well and good, but cease and persist for, cease and desist, excuse me, is a completely different term with different connotations in different contexts. And granted, those were not synonyms, but just an example of the language. So try to keep it grounded, simple, and readable. You, X, are hiring Plus Public to consult on website redesign development, website deployment, website management. The language there is redundant, but it is specific. You are hiring me to redesign, to develop, to deploy, and manage a website for you for the price of $3,500, okay? As outlined in the attached proposal for services. And I'll show you what my proposals look like after this. Okay, so the proposal for services lists everything, shows my body of work, shows references, all of that. And it is a complement to this contract. So no, the person that is signing this contract has to have seen the proposal in advance. What do both parties agree to do, rather? As our customer, you have the power and ability to enter into this contract on behalf of your company. You agree to provide us with everything that we need to complete the project, including login information, FTP, usernames, passwords, Google Analytics account, Facebook, social media, everything, all right? When we need it and in the format that we ask for. If we don't get that information in the format that we ask for in the time that we need it, we can't do your project. Period. Okay. You also agree to the payment schedule set forth in this document, which we'll get to. We have the experience and ability to perform the services you need from us, and we will carry them out in a professional and timely manner. Along the way, we will endeavor to meet all the deadlines set, but we can't be responsible for a missed launch date or deadline if you have been late in supplying materials or have not approved or signed off on our work on time at any stage. And of course, we will also maintain the confidentiality of the information you give us. Simply put, don't expect me to meet the deadlines that you set forth if you're not giving me the mission critical content that I need to do the work. Your deadlines don't mean shit to me other than I want to get the project done by the deadline because I want to get paid. The sooner that happens, the better. That's the truth of the matter. I don't care about your deadlines unless it affects my bottom line, okay? So typically I've had a lot of clients that have missed their own deadlines. They apologize profusely, and then they come at the end of the project and say, why isn't this done on time? You missed your deadlines. And I'm gonna say, please, I'll forward them the email and say, yeah, on January 15th, you said you would send this at the end of the week. I sent 2 follow-up emails. You never sent it. It's 3 months later. Here we are. I've reminded you at least 3 times. I'm not going to ask any more than that. So there is a professional expectation and respect with this type of work. I can't do my job if you don't do yours. Service terms. Design. We'll create the designs for the look and feel, layout, and functionality of your website and collateral needs. This contract includes one main design, plus the opportunity for you to make up to 2 rounds of revisions to the main design. If you're not happy with the designs at any stage, you will pay us in full for all of the work that we have produced until that point, and you may either cancel this contract or continue to commission us to make further design revisions at the appropriate rate set out later in this contract. What this says is, you hired us because we're the best. If you don't like the work, we'll revise it twice. If you don't like it at that point, we're not a good fit. You can cancel the contract, no harm, no foul. You pay what you owe. That does not mean you pay the full contract. You just pay what you owe on the contract, and we go our separate ways. In some cases, the client is not satisfied with the 2 revisions, but we're moving forward, we're making progress. So we continue to do more revisions, and that counts toward the total of their contract. So if they have a $15,000 contract with me and they burn through $7,000 of my time just doing revisions, that's on them, not me. That's on them. They made that decision. They could cancel the contract at any time. They chose not to. So sometimes you have to be very wary of clients that aren't even aware of their own finances, or, and actually more specifically, these are the type of clients that don't even read their contracts. They just don't read them. So when you come back to them later and say like, hey, you just burnt through $7,000 worth of time on a $15,000 contract. I warned you repeatedly, you didn't care, and now you're complaining that we haven't even gotten an approved design. You're the one that keeps making changes. So it's also at this point that I may decide to cancel the contract and fire the client and still get paid what I'm owed. This is also the point in time where a client may get upset by that, and then you lock down everything. So you don't give them access to their website. You don't give them the files of whatever until they pay up. Pardon me. HTML and CSS layout. Our work will only function properly in browsers that are compliant with W3C standards for displaying HTML and CSS. Let me be clear. Our work will only function properly in browsers that are compliant. So when I get clients that say, well, your website doesn't work in Internet Explorer, I'm going to show them a list of browsers that are compliant with W3C standards. And they'll be like, I don't know what this means. And I tell them that browser is not supported. It's in the contract. If you don't like the fact that you can't see your website in Internet Explorer, don't take it up with me. Take it up with the World Wide Web Consortium and Microsoft, because Internet Explorer, for whatever reason, is not standards compliant. Okay, but Firefox is, Chrome is, and the new browser Edge from Microsoft is. So I would say, well, stop using Internet Explorer, get a new computer, because Internet Explorer has been deprecated, which means it's done, it's obsolete. If the project includes HTML markup and CSS templates, we'll test all our markup and CSS in current versions of all major browsers, including those made by Apple, Microsoft, Mozilla, and Opera. Opera is not a major browser, so it's gone. That means Safari, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. If you're looking at this website in a different browser, it's not a major browser. So again, like, you need to be very specific and intentional in your wording, because at any point your client may say, well, I can't see it in this browser. And you can say, it's in the contract. They may say, how do you expect me to know that? And then I would probably say something to the effect of, well, if you didn't have enough knowledge to leading into this contract that you agreed to, then you probably shouldn't be doing the work or paying for the work. You may need something else entirely. What I'm giving you here is maybe not the solution that you need. Okay, programming. If you discover anything that is not working to the original specs, it's our responsibility to fix it. However, we have to set a reasonable cutoff for maintenance. Within 90 days after the launch of the project, if you discover anything wrong with the site due to our code or configuration, we will fix it free of charge. No harm, no foul. After that time, we will charge at the appropriate rate for changes or maintenance. Issues due to third-party software, including WordPress plugins and templates, cannot be covered by this guarantee. The site may periodically require security updates to third-party software. We will perform these updates promptly. So let's break this down. Essentially, if you discover anything that's not working to your specs, it's our responsibility to fix it. But you need to tell us within the grace period. We launch the site, and if we hear from you on day 91 that there's an issue, you don't get that for free. You don't get it for free. You had 90 days, you had 3 months to say something, and you didn't. And sometimes things happen. Day 91, you got to pay for it, okay? But only if it is responsible, if we're responsible, if it's a part of our code or configuration that caused the problem. So we have to go in, diagnose the problem, and then we would say, this is not our fault. You installed a third-party plugin without telling us. Had you done that, we would have told you it's not compatible. And because it's incompatible and you install it anyway, it's giving you problems. We'll fix it for you. It's going to cost $1,000 or whatever, $200, $500, doesn't matter. But that's the situation. So issues. So I just experienced this with the Cambria County Library Association or System website. They kept having issues where their site was slow, things weren't loading. And then I had asked them, did you change the plugin ecosystem? Did you add in new plugins? Yes. Were they plugins that we pre-approved for implementation? No. Okay. Well, that's a third-party software. Those are third-party plugins. It's not insured. It's not covered by this guarantee. So we'll come in and fix it for you, but it's going to cost you. And it took me 3 to 4 hours to diagnose that problem. I sent them a bill for like $500. And they're like, why are you giving us this? Like, why are you charging so much? Well, read your contract. Those are the rules. You had a rush job. I had to prioritize your issue over all of my clients. You did something we explicitly told you not to, like a child, and now you're expecting us to fix it. And this is what it costs to fix it. Standard billing competitive rates. If at any time I come off like a dick, note that I deliver this information as politely and as professionally as possible. Because a lot of people just don't know. And in fairness, a lot of clients that we deal with, we don't deal with the person that signed the contract. We deal with their employees or their staff, okay? Their staff never see this contract, so they don't know. So we have an opportunity where we need to protect our assets and protect us from getting taken advantage of. Those people that have never seen this contract, let alone know it exists, they don't know that, okay? They don't know it. So you have to be very clear and transparent in that. Text content. We are not responsible for writing or inputting any text copy unless we specified it in the original estimate. I never write in copywriting or content writing into my contracts. We don't do it. I don't want to deal with it. Hire someone else. If the client gives us approved content from another vendor, then I'll implement it. No problem, but we're not writing it. And then, you know, if the client wants that, generally I have to market up that hourly service because I have to hire a subcontractor to do the work. Sometimes that is necessary with how governments or nonprofits or corporations handle contracts. They may just say, listen, we'll pay the extra money, but you need to hire this person because it'll eliminate paperwork on our end. Okay, no problem. Photography, you'll supply us a photography in either digital or printed format. If you choose to buy stock photos, we can suggest vendors of stock photography and make recommendations on appropriate photos to select from. Anytime we spend searching for appropriate photographs, we'll be charged at the hourly rate. If you require any custom photography, we'll have to outsource it, but we can include it in our billing. So one thing that clients don't understand is if they say to you, well, why don't we just get some stock photos, take a look around, let me know what you find, and we can use that. They fail to recognize that even searching for stock photos is an hourly service that they have to pay for, okay? Sometimes it's just, I've been in situations where it's just not worth billing for because the clients may hem-ha over, well, I don't want to pay you to do an internet search. Well, then don't tell us you want us to find photos. Be very specific and intentional and just say, if you want to use our resources, like our stock photography subscriptions, fine. You get those photos for practically free, but it still takes time to find the right photos. So there's an hourly rate attached to that. I don't want to spend 8 hours looking for the perfect photo and not get paid for it. Changes and revisions. We are aware that fixed price contracts can be a problem as they often limit you to your first idea about how something should look or how it might work. We don't want to limit your options or opportunities to change your mind. The estimate quotation prices at the beginning of this document are based on the amount of time that we estimate we'll need to accomplish everything that you've told us you want to achieve. So in the proposal, which is not the contract, in the proposal, you have the estimates. You have them all line item out by hour, how many hours at what cost per hour. If they agree to that, then you get to the contract stage. In the contract stage, those estimates are put into the contract and they sign it, and that's what it is. If they change their mind or they need more time, that's another contract, okay? Get it? Listen, nothing exists. Nothing exists unless it's in writing, okay? Your client could be someone you've known for 20 years that you trust completely. They still may screw you over if there's nothing in writing. Always get it in writing, okay? So in some cases, clients will look at the estimate, agree to it, get the contract, look at the estimate, and then have an issue. Or they sign the contract and the estimates match, but then they come back to you later and say, well, we need more time. Okay, here's another contract. It's called an addendum. Here's another contract stating what you want, sign it, and we'll add it to this existing contract. Tech support. You may already have professional web hosting. You may even manage that hosting in-house. If you don't manage your own web hosting, we can set up an account for you at one of our preferred third-party hosting providers. We will charge you a one-off fee for installing your site on the server, plus any website tracking or statistics software such as Google Analytics. Then the updates to and management of that server, plus any support issues, will be up to you. Folks, you're going to get some clients that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground between what web hosting is and what a domain is. To many of these people, they are one and the same. And that is a fair confusion because there are web hosting companies that provide both services either separately or in tandem as a group, okay? So that is a common misconception or a common point of confusion. The client may say, well, you buy the hosting, set it all up in my name, and then I'll pay you for the yearly fees plus the time it takes you to management. Okay, that's great, no problem. Except don't put it in their name. You're using your money, it belongs in your name, period. If they don't want anything to do with it, then they should just pay you to manage it. And if they come back to you later and say, hey, you know what, we've had a good relationship, but I want to move on, can we discontinue our contract and can you release the assets to me? Sure. There'll be an hourly fee associated with releasing the assets to you. And if you did not pay either in part or whole for that web hosting service through us, then you're going to owe that, and then you mark it up 15%. So basically you buy the hosting and then you mark it up because it takes time for you to secure those things. And then you release it and you go on your merry way. Now, alternatively, they may say, you're screwing me over here. This is a faulty contract. I'm not paying anything for you. At which point, guess what is in your name? Their domain, their web hosting. If they're going to mess with you, shut their website down. Cut off their revenue source. See what happens. They'll turn around real quick. And that's called covering your ass. Okay? Now, alternatively to that alternative, you could say, you could be fair and kind and transparent here. However you want to do it. You could say, you buy the hosting, you get it set up in your domain, your information, you buy your domain, your hosting on your own. We'll walk you through it, but it'll be in your name, and then you just pay us to manage it. You, client, own your asset. We do not, but we will manage it for you. Oh, by the way, also, if you don't pay your bills with us, we'll lock you out of your account and, until you pay us. Which has happened, not necessarily to me, but to other people that I know. My advice is let the client set up their own hosting and domain. You walk them through it. You don't want to own their stuff. Especially if it's if a relationship goes sour, you don't want to deal with that. It's more of a pain in the ass, and all it does is breed resentment and dislike for both parties. So, moving forward, we are not a web hosting company. So we do not offer or include tech support for web hosting, email, or other services related to web hosting. So just because we manage your account does not mean that we provide tech support for it. Manage your account means we make sure that your domains are up to date. We make sure your security is in place. We make sure your website is up and running, and that's about the extent of it. We don't handle your email. We only utilize your web hosting account to access files, install software, and manage updates, period. Very specific. If you require help with anything beyond the design and development of your project, we'll be happy to help and we'll charge you at the appropriate rate. Hourly rates for additional work. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this here in a moment because these have changed, but nevertheless, hourly rates for additional work. These rates are guaranteed for 1 year from the date of the signing of this contract. So if a client has a successful project with me, we launch their site, and then a year later, they say, almost a year later, they say, hey, we want to do more work with you. What are your rates? And they say and I say to them, well, here are the rates. And then if they come back and say, well, in your contract, it says these rates are good for up to a year, then it's on me to honor that. If I want the business, I'll honor it. Yeah, am I going to take a hit? Possibly. Depends on how I manage and execute the project. But this is a sign, if you respect this, it's because you're going to get return work. So hypothetically, a client finishes a project with us, contract is done. They come back to us less than a year later. They want more work from us. We'll honor the rates in this contract because we're getting repeat work from them that we don't have to bid on. We don't have to do a pitch for. It's just there. Okay. And that's good business. That's good business, respecting your own contract. So these rates here, these are quite old. Okay. My hourly rate is like, I don't know, it's like $100 an hour. All right, plus Publix is $100 an hour. And depending on the scale of the project, we may change that value based on the scale of the project, the time it may take us, and if it's repeat work or a repeat client. If we don't have to pitch it, we'll knock the price down, and our clients know that. But all of these have pretty much gone up, all right? And I need you to think about it this way. So $35 for copywriting. So some of the best writers are going to charge that much. So I would need to make, you know, over 3 hours worth of $35 just to cover that. 1 hour for a copywriter. So you need to adjust your prices accordingly. My advice would be to find good people that can do, you know, tech support, can do photography and writing and advanced programming and all that stuff. Best way to find those people? Network your butt off. Liability. We can't guarantee that the functions contained in any web page template or in a completed website will always be error-free. And so we can't be liable to you or any third party for damages, including lost profits, lost savings, or other incidental, consequential, or special damages arising out of the operation of or inability to operate this website and any other web pages, even if you have advised us of the possibilities of such damages. So basically, this is after launch, right? After you launch the site, any number of things could happen. It could get hacked. You know, your business partner may take the website down accidentally, or an intern screws it up, or you've got a disgruntled employee that totally trashes your site, or the server out in Iowa that your website sits on was destroyed in a lightning storm. Those are things that we are not responsible for. We took care of everything that we could before the launch. Afterwards, it can be kind of the Wild West. All right, moving down. Ownership of intellectual property. You guarantee to us that you have the right to use any elements of text, graphics, videos, music, photos, designs, trademarks, or other artwork that you provide us for inclusion into the website. You agree to indemnify against any and all claims arising from the use of these elements. So if you have a client who went to Fiverr for their logo, and it just so happens that the logo that they paid money for on Fiverr is damn near identical to a logo for, I don't know, some food company in you know, Poughkeepsie, whatever. And then that food company finds out, and then they threaten to sue you. That's not your fault. That's your client's fault. They lied to you. More importantly, they may not have lied to you knowingly. They may have been swindled by someone on Fiverr. Okay. Ultimately, this contract protects you from damages. Okay. We will. So the critical part to this is right here. So when I make a logo for a client, the only thing they end up truly owning is the final approved logo. I could have designed 100 logos in advance of that final design. I own all of that work, okay? So if I make a logo for Xena, and it's the 125th version or 125th concept of a logo, and she approves it, she pays for it, it's a done deal. Xena only gets that one design. Anything that preceded it, I own, which means I can sell all 124 versions of that logo. I changed some of the things, but I could sell them because that is work that is made in discovery. Discovery work is the work that you do that gets you to the final solution. Ultimately, the client only cares about the final solution, so that's all they're going to pay for. So who owns the discovery work? Well, clients can pay for the discovery if they want. It's going to cost them thousands of dollars, because essentially what you're doing is you are giving up your intellectual property and any revenue that you could generate from your discovery work. We will maintain ownership of all original data, information, formula, designs, charts, and any other materials created in the performance of services or execution of tasks. This includes ownerships of all copyrights, patents, trademarks, and trade secrets, whether or not they are registered. It does not include trademark rights that you establish independent of our work, okay? So this helps protect you. So if, say, for example, you send your client a PDF with 3 logos in it. Out of the 3, they choose 1. That means these 2 ideas that they didn't choose do not belong to them. So you could take those 2 logos and sell them to 2 other companies. And if your original client who chose that 3rd idea sees those 2 ideas and has an issue with it, you can just say, sorry, you only paid for the one you approved. You didn't pay for the discovery work. One thing to note about discovery work is that it's really hard to put a value on. So one way to look at it is, let's say you did 100 logo concepts and it took you 20 hours. Well, one way to establish their value is you multiply your hourly rate times 20 hours. And then you get the response, like you get the result, and you could say, well, you know, this is going to cost you $2,000 if you want to buy it. They may want to do that, they may not. $2,000 is a lot of money for artwork that you may never use or look at again. But some people do this to get it off the market. Okay, this is done with respect to maintaining a competitive edge. So you could look at it at face value, just break down the hours, and there you go. But what you're not considering is earning potential, okay? Yes, it took you 20 hours to come up with 100 different ideas, none of which were approved by the client. But what if you could sell all 100 or 99 of those ideas for $1,000 a piece? All of a sudden, you stand to gain $99,000 versus the $2,000 they paid you to give away all of your ideas. Does that make sense? So you need to be able to really think about the earning potential of your work. I have artwork that I just create, and logos, elements, etc. And I either, you know, occasionally I'll use them and pitch them to some clients and it works out, and I sell an idea today that I made 14 years ago. Okay, great. So, you know, back in whatever year it is, I spent an hour making that, and oh look, I just made $1,000 on it now. Always save your work, save your assets. And then once you sell that idea, like, take it out of your archive, it's done. So I've successfully recycled ideas for new clients and seen a huge gain from that, which is pretty good. All right, so hold harmless. You specifically agree to hold harmless all claims related to the use of video and music files. So if I make a video for you and I put in, you know, some song that YouTube picks up and flags for copyright infringement, that's not my fault. You told me you had the rights for it. If you can prove you have the rights for it, take it up with Google. I'm not dealing with it. That's not my problem. Or if I upload a video that has a copywritten song in it, and then that artist finds out and realizes that neither they or their recording company didn't give approval for that music to be included in that video, not my fault. You said you had the rights. I'll take you at your word. The onus is not on me to prove that. It's on the client to substantiate that and prove that on their own. Okay, so preliminary concepts versus final concepts. And this is sort of what I was talking about with ownership of intellectual property. So prelim versus final. It's important to note that as part of our work, early in each project, we may produce a lot of discussion materials, sketches, layouts, visualizations, comps. These are prepared solely for the purpose of demonstrating an idea or a message for you to accept. Many prelim concepts will later be modified or rejected entirely. Usually only one concept will be taken through to completion. It is only the approved and finished final art that will be delivered to you. We will maintain full ownership of all intellectual property, the discovery work, as described above, regardless of whether the subject matter is a prelim or final concept. You are granted a perpetual license to use the final concepts for your own purposes. We are not granting you any license with respect to prelim concepts. So even the logo that they choose and pay for, I still technically own, but they have a license. So I own the artwork, but I license it to them forever, for eternity. That is perpetuity. That is perpetual license. They will always have the right to use it. I can hypothetically revoke that with this contract. I've never done that. It's not worth the hassle. We will give you a copy of all files, and you should store them safely, as we're not required to keep them or provide any files to you that we used in making them. Because we love to show off our work and share what we have learned with other people, we reserve the right to display and link to your completed project as part of our portfolio, and to write about the project on websites, articles, and books. You may have some clients that prefer anonymity, or some clients that don't want you to publicly show the work that you're doing. That's up to you. Just modify the language in your contract to acknowledge and respect that. Okay, so moving down, payment. We are sure you understand how important it is for us as a small business that you pay the invoices that we send you promptly. To make things easy, our payment schedule is comprised of 3 simple parts. 1, 25% upon signing of this agreement. 2, 50% at completion of 30 hours of design work. 3, the final 25% at completion of development services. So what this is saying is you still have to pay us in full, even if we don't launch your site on time. Ideally, that the goal is to launch the site on time and you pay us what we're owed per the contract. But the world doesn't work in fixed terms. Okay, so this is an example of a fixed contract. This is going to cost $3,800 or whatever it is. Okay, but the scheduling with respect to that can vary. So 25% upfront. Okay, so they pay us 25% upfront. That covers the first 30 hours. Then they pay us 50% to get us to the next 30 hours. So once 60 hours, essentially, well, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself. So they pay 25%, that buys 30 hours. 50% buys the next 30, and then the 25% pays for the remainder of hours. So the hourly breakdown is not specifically listed here, it's implied. Okay, so those are the milestones, because I have payroll, I have to pay people in a timely manner. I can't do that with a fixed contract that states pay me 25% up front and then 75% at completion of the project. That could go on for a year. So that means I make $875, but I work my ass off for a year. That doesn't make any sense, okay? So you need to be able to build out a reasonable set of milestones. Another option is you don't have a fixed contract, but you have a limit, you have a threshold. So the client says, we need you to do this work. Our budget is $5,000. Then you say, okay, I'll bill you at every $1,000. I'll send you an invoice for every $1,000 that I spend, And when I get to $3,500 spent, I'll let you know, and then you can choose whether you need to increase your budget or you want me to max out your budget, and then I'll bill you accordingly. And if I only get to, I don't know, 4,625, then I'll only bill you for that because the project would be done. So you still keep it under budget, but they're able to get the project done. So it really depends on what you and your client really come to agree to, and that takes nuance. Some clients are going to be like, I have $1,000 and that's it. You can bill me in 2 installments of $500. I don't care when that is, or 500 up front, 500 in the middle of the project, or 500 up front, 200 in the middle of the project, another 200 3/4 of the way through, and then the final 100 at completion. You break it down however you need to, because ultimately at the end of the day, it is based on your finances and when you need that money. Okay. Another thing to consider is that many companies will only write checks once a month. Okay. They won't do that bi-weekly. Okay. They may do it once a month, and they typically do it in the middle of the month. So try to get your invoices in before the middle of the month, you know, that middle Wednesday or whatever it is. Try to get those in. That way you can get paid at the end of the month versus getting your invoice in at, you know, later in the month and then having to wait a whole other month to get paid. Okay. All right, moving down. If your request changes beyond the initial scope of work to be billed at an hourly rate described above, we reserve the right to bill you monthly for these charges. Okay. You must also reimburse us for reasonable out-of-pocket expenses. Always get approval from the client in writing before you do that. Be very clear and say, we need to buy this thing for this purpose. If the client agrees to it, great, buy the thing, but make sure it's in writing. If they say no, then say, okay, we can't do anything until you agree to that. Ideally, you don't want to get to that point because you literally leave them with no choice except to pay you to buy that thing. If you want to avoid a sticky situation with respect to that, you need to build in expenses into your quotes. Here's an example. Pardon me. Okay, it's going to cost me $3,000 to make your website. Along the way, I may have additional expenses. So I'm going to quote you $4,000, knowing that I have expenses to make and the project's going to take $3,000 to do. So that's kind of your safeguard. So let's say you do the project and you realistically are owed the $3,000, but out of that $1,000 overage that you built into your quote, you only spent 250 of it. Only bill them 3,250. Only bill them for what you're spending, and then you can come back to them and say, "Hey, you know what? I was able to do the project in a more efficient time, using more efficient tools, and I actually don't need. I would like to have the full $4,000, but I didn't use it. So you get the benefit of that. So you pay less money for your project, and I guarantee you the clients will be thrilled. They'll be like, wow, we actually didn't have to spend as much as we thought. That's fantastic. So if you build in your expenses into the project, you can save a lot of headache later. And additionally, how you present that to them without being fraudulent, of course, like you want to be transparent about it, but you could say like, yeah, I might have to make an expense that's going to cost about $500, turned out to be $250. I got a coupon code and here we are. You owe less money. They'll be thrilled. And they may just say like, you know what, the contract's for $4,000. How about we just keep an open credit with you? See, essentially you can keep the $4,000, but you're going to owe them $750 worth of time. which works out in your favor because the time that they use may be less than your, maybe for services that aren't graphic design. They may just need you to manage some stuff, at which point you might hypothetically be making a profit on the time that you spend within that credit because the services that they need from you aren't your most expensive services. I apologize if that's convoluted, but it is kind of nebulous, layered. Okay, so if you terminate this agreement before completion of the scope of services, you agree to pay us for the work done on your behalf at the rates found in the rates section of the document. Late payments under any part of this project will accrue interest of 1.5%. I've actually increased that in later contracts to 3%. In some cases, depending on the client, 5%, because, you know, personality types being what they are. So 1.5% per month on any overdue or unpaid balance, and you agree to reimburse us for any expenses incurred in collection. So I have to send you to a collection agency. I'm going to get the money that was owed to me plus the money I had to pay the collection agency to get that money in the first place. I've never had to send a client to collections. Usually I turn their shit off and they do an about face and correct their behavior very quickly, because I'm cutting off their presence to the world. All right, so don't mess with your web designers. Okay, moving down. Pro bono work. Plus Public, as defined in the proposal for services, we agree to 30 additional hours pro bono. So this project was for a nonprofit, and we basically said, listen, we're going to max out your budget, but we know that you need the training. So we're going to give you some additional time for free on us to teach you how to use your website, update your website, stuff like that, and, you know, just do some general maintenance. Time frame. All projects will commence starting the day the signed contract is received by us. I don't accept a contract without payment. So consequently, the project will not start until I get both. So when I get the signed contract and the payment, we start the project. Your project needs the appropriate amount of time to be finished with quality and consistency. Therefore, providing any specific stipulations regarding time frame specifically identified by the client, your project will be based on a 12-month minimum for time frame for completion. So essentially, yeah, you're only paying us $4,000, but you're not using a year's worth of our time. It's a project that's spread out over 12 months. So we're going to get paid what we're owed, what we competitively valued the project at. But if you go beyond the 12-month time frame, it basically means we need to do a new contract or we need to reassess payment because you've wasted so much time. Sometimes things happen. Clients go in the hospital. Clients are not responsive. Clients have businesses that fold and then they don't tell you, or clients are lazy, or clients are trying to get stuff done through another vendor and that vendor's being slow. Business happens. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's my fault, you know? All right, well, this client isn't being responsive, so I'm going to take on new clients to fill the time. And then as soon as I do that, that slow client comes back online and demands the world or needs stuff done. And that's kind of the risk you take. So you need to manage your bandwidth and your capacity accordingly. Final notes. We may, without any liability, delay performance. We may, without any liability, meaning we can't be punished, without any liability, delay performance or cancel this contract, meaning I can fire you, the client, on any pending services if circumstances beyond our control prevent us from continuing the work, such as force majeure, war, natural disasters, utility failures, or the unavailability of people or materials. So if I have a client whom I like as a person, but I'm not a good fit with, I generally will cancel the contract out of unavailability of people because, yeah, they may be available for calls, but they're not giving me the resources. They're not giving me the direction. They're not giving me the things that I need to finish the project. So they're not giving me the materials. They're not giving me the appropriate feedback. Sometimes it's just not a good fit. And in fact, I had to fire a client a few weeks ago because of that. It happens. It just happens. Sometimes people just don't get along. Sometimes expectations are wildly blown out of control or just completely unrealistic. These things happen. Don't take it personally, even if it does hurt your feelings and makes you angry, gets you frustrated. The guy that I had to fire, I actually really like as a person, and he's kind of the neighbor. He's in my neighborhood. But his management style, he's an anal retentive OCD micromanager. Please don't misconstrue that as an insult for those that have OCD or are anal retentive. But I would say that a combination of those things does not make for a good working relationship for anybody. You may find some of those types in your working life. Nevertheless, he got axed, gone. So if we are unable to continue work under this contract due to your inability or failure to fulfill your requirements under the contract, such as a lack of communication in response to our requests, late payments, or closing or interruption of your business, or any other cause, that's the operative phrase, or any other cause, we reserve the right to terminate this contract and request payment for all services rendered under this contract with 30 days written notice of our intent to do so. So, give you 30 days, and then that's it. And hopefully, you find someone else and leave us alone. You cannot transfer this contract to anyone else without our permission. This contract stays in place and will not need to be renewed. If for some reason one part of this contract becomes invalid or unenforceable, the remaining parts of it will remain in place. If any provision of this agreement shall be unlawful, void, or for any reason unforeseeable, then that provision shall be deemed severable from this agreement and shall not affect the validity and enforceability of any remaining provisions. So basically, if your business moves to a different state, there's some question as to whether or not it's enforceable. This basically says you agree to it regardless of the situation, and it'll be up to someone else to enforce it, meaning I'd have to take you to court, but whatever. Although the language is simple, the intentions are serious, and this contract is a legal document. The validity of the contract, the construction and meaning of its terms, and the rights of all parties involved will be governed by the laws of the Commonwealth of PA. Any court action based on this will be in Allegheny County. Winning party will be entitled to the cost of the suit and reasonable attorney fees. So if Alex screws me on a job, I take him to court, I win, but so I get the money that was owed to me plus, I would get, so basically Alex owes me $4K. I take him to court, judge rules in my favor, I get my $4K back. But as a part of this, I'm also going to ask for attorney's fees, meaning Alex has to pay like 15 grand to cover my lawyer fees. So ultimately he owes me $29,000, at which point I take the 15, pay off the lawyers, and go about my day with my 4K. Intended to be legally bound, the parties execute this agreement, sign it, date it, sign it, date it, sign this document, scan it, whatever, send it back to me and a check, and we're good to go. So, what do you guys think?
That's a lot.
I think
But
it's
it's necessary.
really thought out though, and I feel like it definitely covers everything that's needed covered for things like that.
Yeah. So it is intimidating. There's a lot of depth there. You won't necessarily know what some of these things mean until you actually experience them on your own. But this contract can save the day. It can protect you. A few other things that it does. Number one, I know a lot of you guys are going to be excited and ambitious and you want to do good work for clients and all of that stuff. A good client will respect the contract regardless of the value of the project. It could be a pro bono project. Contract, you are agreeing, yeah, I'll do this for free for 10 hours. And then if it doesn't work out, you're welcome to go on your own. No problem. A good client will respect your time, your talent, your professionalism, okay? But a good contract not only protects you, it protects the client, okay? There are circumstances where sometimes the vendor, meaning me, faults on something that I agreed to, or because of force majeure, like my house got flooded, I couldn't make your deadline, you know, or your house got flooded, you couldn't make a deadline. There are all kinds of different circumstances that, you know, could prevent major issues, or at least will help remedy problem solving. So this contract protects your clients as much as it protects you. And a good client will recognize that. A good client will have experience with contracts, okay? Not all clients do. Small businesses do not. They don't like them. The guy I actually fired, he didn't even want a contract. He wanted to keep it relatively off the books. And that worked to an extent until I found out he was an asshole, okay? So, you know, have a good contract. Genesis, you're saying, I've been screwed over by people before with commissions and design stuff, so I feel like this would take some of that fear and weight off from me, always being stressed out about the next time someone tries to cheat me. Yeah, it helps take some of that anxiety away, anxiety away, but it also helps you be disciplined. Your goal is to provide a high quality project in the best possible way that you can, okay? High quality solutions, high quality customer service, but you also want it done fast, all right? Not hyper speed, at a good clip, a quick, you know, a reasonable pace, because you need to get paid. You don't want to do a project that takes you 5 hours and then get paid for it 6 months later. You want to do a project that takes 5 hours and you want paid next week, all right? Or 2 weeks from now, or at the end of the month, okay? So at the end of the day, the only thing that truly matters is your bottom line. And your bottom line is how much you're getting paid. So ask for money up front. 25% up front is very common. If a client doesn't want to pay that for a commission or whatever, don't work with them. Not worth the time. Not worth the hassle, not worth the effort, no matter how good the project is, okay? You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be an ultimatum. You don't have to be black or white on this. There are shades of gray, okay? A client may say, well, I can't do 25% up front. I can do 15%. Okay, you're coming to the table with some kind of investment that respects my time. I can work with you at 15%. I'll do the 15% worth of work, and then you pay me the next milestone. And then I'll do the next 30% of work, and then you pay me the next milestone, okay? They may also say, well, I have a budget of $1,000. Do you think you could get the project done in that time? And then you say, yeah, here's what I'll do. I'll bill you $200 right now. If I get the project done in $200 worth of time, then you don't owe anything else. But I'll come back to you and say, it's going to take me another 10 hours or $200 worth of time. And if they agree to that, great. Then they can cut you another check for $200 up until you get to 1,000. Your goal would be to get the project done under or at their budget, the $1,000. They feel empowered and informed when you say, all right, I got 1/3 of the project done in $200. I can get the next third done with another 200, and then the final part. So it's like $600. Great. Don't be afraid to do intervals, deposited intervals with your pricing. Make sure your time is always accounted for. And if they say to you like, well, you know, I can't pay you that frequently in those smaller iterations, ultimately that's up to them to figure out. That's not your problem. If they don't want to spend any more than they have to, and their maximum, their ceiling is $1,000, they need to figure out a way to pay it. And guess what, folks? Most companies have credit cards. Get yourself a Square account, get yourself a PayPal account. They can pay your PayPal account, they can pay your Square account. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay a transaction fee, but it's the quickest route to you getting paid, period. Because companies aren't gonna write checks out to you any day of the week. There's a process for that, okay? Genesis, you're saying I've done like a deposit, but then it's hard to give them a deposit cost up front, and I don't always know the length of time a project will take for me to have a decent idea of a deposit fee. Okay, so this is very much a what comes first, chicken or the egg situation. And the answer is an egg that came from an animal that wasn't a chicken. All right, so the situation here is you have to basically say, this project could take me up to 50 hours. Okay, 50 hours costs this much. That may be out of their range or whatever. So you say, that's the ceiling, 50 hours. And then you do 15 hours. And then you get it done in another 10, so 25 hours. Just bill them for the 25 hours, and then that's it, okay? That would be some of the best advice I'd have for you is don't feel, first off, do not feel pressured to give them a fixed quote. Just say, listen, my hourly rate is $45 an hour. You can pay for X amount of hours, and then I'll do those hours, and then we can assess how much time needs done, how much more time the project needs to get it done. And they can say, all right, well, I'll pay you another $300. Okay, well, there we go. You have another $300 worth of time, and that's it. I found that clients feel extremely empowered when you give them the ability to decide how to spend their money, okay? So I like to say, all right, you know, I'll do this project for you, and we'll work up to a $500 limit, and we'll see how far we get. We may need to do another 10 hours or whatever, and so be it. But generally, for my types of projects, don't come to me with a project that's under $5,000 because I'm not really interested. Like I am in the 5,000 plus range. I'll do smaller projects, but generally what I'll do is I'll just subcontract them and art direct them and then turn it over. Because I could pay a subcontract designer a lot less than it would take me to do the job. And that way another designer gets some work, and I can get a good project out of it, maybe cultivate a relationship with that client to do more expensive work. It all depends. So all of this stuff is shades of gray, and honestly, the best way to do it is to practice it. That's the simple, straight fact of the matter. You are not going to know how to price yourself until you start pricing yourself and seeing what works and what doesn't. You're not going to know if your contracts work until you write an agreement or a contract and then you put it into practice. No amount of books will tell you or be the guiding light for you to figure out how to do this stuff as it explicitly applies to you. You just have to do it, okay? So I wish I had better news for you. There are books out there that are great, and they say a lot of the same things that I'm telling you now, and I would encourage you to read them. But at the end of the day, all they do is give you advice. They don't tell you what to do. No one can. And ultimately, you have to use the tools and the wisdom and the philosophies in your pricing and in your contracts on terms that you are comfortable with. So here's a question for you guys. For those that are graduating, what's your hourly rate? Just drop it in the chat. How much does it cost me per hour to hire you to do design work? Put a number on it. Everybody, drop it in the chat. Put your numbers in. Okay. Alex is 40 to 50. Zena's 15. Garrett's 35. Okay, so Genesis, you're 15 to 20. Eden, you're going to be 50 to 60. Emily's 15. Okay, so I can tell you right now that those of you that are pricing yourself at 50 to 60, given your age and experience level, you're not going to get that. You're going to be mid-career before you're making $50 an hour. Okay. I charge anywhere from $75 to $90 an hour. And I've been doing this since 2003. Okay. Now granted, I'm a bit more I'm a bit more lowered barrier for entry on my pricing. I could charge a lot more, but I don't because my pricing is palatable to volume. So I get a lot of work at my price level. All right. So if you're 22 and you're fresh out of school, for example, you know, you could get 20, I would say no more than $30 an hour, realistically. Okay. Now, depending on the company that would be hiring you for, and there's a few different layers here. So if you're just doing a straight freelance gig, you could do anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour, like for a small business or a nonprofit, something like that. If it's for a corporation or a design agency, they're going to have rates already identified for how much they want to pay people. So they may say to you, hey, that's great that you cost 30 an hour. Our rates for freelancers are 45. Take it or leave it. Well, you're going to take it. Okay. Inversely, they may say, oh, well, $30 an hour, he's going to save us money. We'll take him. Some corporations, though, will look at that and say, 30 bucks an hour, we mostly buy time from freelancers that cost anywhere from 40 to 80. This person may not be at the level we want them just yet. So it can be a measure of quality and a measure of experience. Okay. So for most of you graduating, yeah, I'd say anywhere from 20 to 30. And Alex, I'll get to your point in a minute. But the other thing you need to think about is negotiation. Set high, negotiate down. If you want $25 an hour, set your pricing at 30. Let them talk you down $5. If they talk you down $5, they'll feel like they're getting a deal. Your client will be really happy. Meanwhile, you're making the amount of money that you wanted to make to begin with. Okay. If they say 30 an hour, great, no problem. Then congratulations, you just made yourself an extra $5 an hour. Okay. Regarding materials, Genesis, so materials is interesting. Can you tell me what materials you're buying?
Yeah, so I've done pencil charcoal portraits. I've painted dice trays. So the cost to buy the cigar box, the paint, the seal, stuff like that. That's more of my art-based stuff than it is just design
Sure.
stuff.
Okay. The principles that I'm sharing with you are they cross over. So my recommendation would be your time is your time. It's not materials. You need to develop a cost for materials. So you could say, it takes me 20 hours to make this work that you want, but you also need to pay me for the materials that you want in this artwork. Or you could condense it and say, well, I cost 50 an hour. 20 of that is for my time. The remainder is for materials. I wouldn't do that. I would specifically have a list of the materials that they want. And then you say, I cost 20 an hour, plus I have to pay for these materials that you want to use. So you got to pay me for that. Because ultimately you have to pay for the materials. And you're not going to be able to pay those materials on $20 an hour, right? So think about how you want to do that. I would say compensation for materials is a separate charge, similar to how I have a design rate, but copywriting is a separate rate. If that makes any sense. And you're allowed to have different rates for different services. All right, consultations. If you just want me to consult on your project, to talk to you for an hour, that's $50. Okay. All right. Oh, allergies are killing me today. I apologize. Okay, so Alex, coming back to you. So should I change myself to 20 to 30 until I've proven myself as a top tier designer? I don't like the phrasing top tier. I think that's doing yourself a disservice. Hello, Amelia. Come on in. You want to say hello to everybody? Just look right there.
Hi, everybody.
Say have a great last class.
Have a great last class.
And have a wonderful summer.
And have a wonderful summer, which is my birthday season.
That's right, June 15th. Yep.
June 15th.
You guys better get her a present.
I'm going to Kennywood.
She's going to Kennywood!
And I'll be 42 inches.
Yes, you'll be 42 inches. You can ride most of the rides. Not the fancy bench. Not yet. No. Okay. So coming back to that top tier content, I don't think that is fair to you because top tier implies quality. I would say you should charge 20 to 30 an hour until you gain the amount of experience that you feel you've gained in order to merit raising your costs. So some things that would apply to skill development, conceptual quality. So let's look at that. So conceptual skill development. The client comes to you and says, I need this, 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 and this, and you can do all of those things, then yeah, you may want to increase your hourly rate because you can do more than what they need, even though, and they may not even know what they need. So the bigger your skill set becomes and the better your performance within that skill set, the more you can charge. All right. One way to measure your performance there is the number of successful projects that you have, the number of projects that you've used specific skills on. You may find that there are some skills that are very much in demand. Okay. Like Alex can do video, but he can't really do audio work that well. So charge lower on audio, but charge higher on video. Okay. So again, it requires nuance. Another measure is awards. So I've won dozens of awards for my work during my career. And that means because I'm winning awards, I can ask for more money because I'm an award-winning graphic designer multiple times over. So that is a statement on quality and not my ego, okay? It's a statement on quality, all right? If you're doing high level kind of work, you can ask for more money, okay? So maybe that is in reference to your top tier comment, but ultimately You could be a designer that has won no awards, but still costs $125 an hour. And that's because of your performance within your skill set, and then also your conceptual development. You know, if you're coming up with really great ideas for clients, and you're doing it in record time, like that merits a high cost. Like if you're coming up with ad campaigns for them that are successful, you know, that means something. But also, what about the metrics on the campaigns or work that you're doing for people? So, you know, Garrett builds a website for a retail store, and you're looking at the Google Analytics, and, you know, that retail store is getting a lot of hits. Well, you know, that's a great project. That means, hey, my websites get a lot of traffic for a variety of reasons. I'm going to charge more. Okay. I generally, though, if you look at it time-wise, I say, one, always reevaluate your rates annually. Look at what works, what doesn't. Look at who you want to target, what kind of clients you want to work with. As you move throughout your career, you're going to find that you naturally gravitate towards specific industries or sectors. Some of you may be very health specific. Some of you may be engineering. Some of you may be business centric, or some of you may deal with consumer products and retail. You never know which way you're going to go. Okay. So the more experience you develop within one specific industry or sector of an industry, the more you may be able to charge. My friend Tim Rodman, he works in, I think they make parts. I don't know what he does, but he works in the engineering space. He has a full-time job, and then he's like, you know what? I know so many people through my job that need this kind of work. I'm just going to start my own freelance company, and it's called Industrializen. I can't pronounce it correctly. Industrializen. And all he does is work for construction companies and engineering, and he's making a killing. And that's because his market position is very specific and intentional. Like, he decided, I'm going to cultivate as much experience as I can in the construction sector and the engineering sectors, and I'm going to be a real professional here that they're coming to him all the time. At a certain point, if he plays his cards right, he's going to quit his job and just do that thing full time. He would have created his own opportunity for himself. So it could work out that way. My specific niche, I'm still too broad, even after all these years, to be held down to one specific thing. But I would, without a doubt, say that I've got real inroads in health-based nonprofits. I've got inroads for libraries, of all things. Like, I just pitched a library project today, as a matter of fact, that I'm probably going to get. So you never know where your specialization, your marketing position is going to come into play. Some of you may decide, like, you know, for example, the cannabis industry is booming, billion-dollar industry in record time, matter of less than 5 years, billion-dollar industry. There, a lot of designers are trying to get into that space because there's a lot of money to be made. And hey, you know what? That may be, regardless of any affiliation you may have to a cannabis product, like, you may just decide, you know what? That's where the money is. That's where I'm going. I don't use the products, don't know much about their composition, but I know the audience. I know the people that use the products, and that makes all the difference. So, Alex, I don't think top tier was a bad choice of words. I just think it was just you needed to switch the paradigm just a little bit. You're good. What other thoughts do you guys have? Oh, Free Agent Nation for Independent Workers. That's a book. Did you read it?
I have not read it yet, but from what my class kept talking about, it's apparently really good for contracting or like if you have your own LLC.
Okay. There are a number of books that you can take a look at. My recommendation would be, yeah, maybe give that book a shot, but also AIGA has a lot of great resources on freelancing and setting hourly rates and stuff like that. I'm looking for another book here. I don't know where it's at. Are you all familiar with 50 Cent, the rapper?
Yes.
He has a business book. I don't know if you knew this, because the dude's like super wealthy, excellent investor. He has a book on basically it's his rules for business, and it looks like a Bible. It's really funny. I would actually recommend reading that as well, just because there's all of his knowledge is practical, grounded stuff that he didn't go to school for business or anything like that. So it's all from his own experience, and it's a really good read. But there are plenty of design books out there outside of that can give you some additional insight. Oh yeah, the 50th Law. Thanks for that. Did you look it up? Yeah. Yeah, it's a good book. And you know what's ironic is the lawyer who wrote my contract is the same one who gave me that book. So that's pretty cool.
I have a friend who's going into paralegal studies. If I come up with a contract, I might have them proofread it for anything else.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you for reading that up, because one of the best things, honestly, that you can do is hire a lawyer to write your contract. Period. Save up some money, or rather, contact a lawyer and say, hey, I'm a graphic designer. I need a creative services contract. How much is it going to cost? Contact a few lawyers, get quotes, ask them how much it would cost to do that. Find out how much it'll cost, save up your money, hire the right person, get the contract, make money, and you get a couple things out of it. One, you get a bona fide, legitimate contract. And now you've got a lawyer that you can refer projects to, or you can refer clients to, or if you've got beef with a client, you can go back to them. Okay. A lot of general practice law firms will do this. The one I'd recommend, I'll link you. Stand by. Yeah, the one that I would recommend is Elliott Davis. They're downtown. No, they're not. They're not downtown. I think they're over in East Liberty now. But they do free consultations, and you can tell them. You can ask for Eric Davis, and you can tell him I sent you if you're interested, and get a contract that way. I actually used to have an office in their building downtown, so I spent a lot of time with those folks. But you may have your own contacts or some folks that you want to work with, and that's totally fine. But another thing to do is you may decide someday you want to start your own formal company, an LLC. You're going to want that lawyer to help you with that. Do not use LegalZoom. God help you if I find out you use LegalZoom to start a company. Do not recommend, okay? Only do that if you're a seasoned professional, okay? Like, because it's all legalese. You don't even necessarily know what you're paying for. Get a lawyer, create a relationship with someone, okay? And they'll help you out. They'll refer clients to you. You can refer clients back to them. It's a win-win. What else do you guys think? Who's scared shitless right now? Alex is. Okay.
I'm a little nervous, but I think I'll be fine in the future.
Okay. out of curiosity, and if you don't mind sharing, what's making you nervous?
Having to like set up the contracts and whatnot, because there are some crazy people out there who don't know much and will try to do everything. Like there's just weird people out there. Because I've already dealt with a few. Like last year, I did like a whole like coloring book, and that was a mess.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, there are all types out there, and they're hard to. I mean, they're hard to predict. You won't necessarily see them coming. Sometimes the nicest people make for the worst clients. I can't actually emphasize that point enough, because I've worked with some amazing folks that were of course awesome clients, but some amazing people that were actually terrible clients, and some terrible people that were amazing clients. You see the whole spectrum. The benefit to putting yourself out there and cultivating those experiences is that you're going to see that spectrum. Now, the other thing I'll say here is that the opportunity is on all of you to cultivate your careers in the way that you want. Now, I started doing design when I was 11 years old, so it's my entire life. It's practically all I know. I don't think I could do anything else, all right, which is a disadvantage for me. But I made it a point after graduating from school. I worked for a company. I worked for Heinz for 2 years out of school, and then I decided to go into teaching and start my own company. And I specifically decided to create I was just very intentional, create the type of career that I wanted for myself by cultivating a range of experiences as quickly as I could. So one of the best ways to do that is to become a full-time freelancer. And you're going to work with all different types of people at one time. And, there were times when in my first company where I was responsible for people at, my God, 25 years old, having employees, insane, by the way. There were times when I'd be working on a project and I just would have to walk away, or I would go to sleep at night and I'd have dreams about deadlines. But I don't regret for a second putting all of that energy and time into the career that I wanted to build for myself, because I've been able to, do incredible things that some people spend their entire design career wanting to do. So your ambition is really up to you, and it's different for everybody, and that's completely okay. Some of you will live and breathe design, go on to get a master's degree, start a company, be a big time deal in a company or agency or whatever. And some of you just want a production job, do the 9 to 5, and go about your business, and that is completely fine. Different strokes for different folks. So you're not necessarily going to know what you want until you're in the thick of it. Okay. So, and in some cases you may find, and similar to me, like you've cultivated all of these opportunities and you can do any number of things, but really what you want is just kind of a 9 to 5, and you shut off at 5 o'clock and go and enjoy your life. Having a kid will change that for you, no doubt. So you guys have a lot to think about over the summer, and I would really encourage you guys, especially if you're graduating, this is very, very much more of a relevant topic for you to consider, because you're going to be looking for internships or maybe your first jobs. And these are critical things you need to think about. I want the best for all of you. I don't want you to get burned out and then, get this design degree, get burned out, and then, go do something else with your life and, kind of regret getting the degree in the first place. I'll be honest with you guys, like it doesn't happen that frequently, but it does happen, and it is what it is. I certainly don't want that for any of you. So you just have to really challenge yourself and your ambitions and where you want to go with your career. So if, Eden, if you want to make coloring books for people, for example. Like if that, and if that's one thing that you really love doing, then put all of your energy into that. Develop a product line of coloring books. Find new ways to do coloring books. Maybe it's your unique art style. Maybe you make a collective of different artists to make coloring books. I don't know. Maybe you develop a product line. You could monetize practically anything, but find what you're passionate about and blow it up. You know, a really great example is my friend Carmela. Carmela Marie. So this has nothing to do with design per se, but she's a friend from Youngstown. So Carmela, she lives in Youngstown. Youngstown's demographic is half white, half black. Youngstown does not have a ton of resources, especially for like cosmetics, hair care, and stuff like that. So she decided, you know what? She wanted to make customized products for Black women. And hey, awesome. So she figured out the chemistry, she figured out the ingredients. She makes her own like natural hair creams and skin balms, all of that stuff, right? And she was just working at the university, minding her own business, doing this on the side. And you know, the next thing that happens, she develops a product line. She starts selling it in little mom and pop retail stores. She builds her online site. She's starting to make more money. Now she's in Giant Eagle. She's going to be in Target. She's going to be in all of these other stores. Meanwhile, that's happening. She's helping other women develop their own companies through the Youngstown Business Incubator. So now she's putting into practice not only what she believes on the incubator side, helping other women start their companies, but she's still running hers, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. So she just decided, this is the one thing that I'm hyper passionate about, and now, you know, she's selling her products all over the world. And, you know, I think that's an amazing story. And any of you could get to that point and exceed that point. So I digress from that. Any other thoughts on this particular topic? Who's got Divi questions?
I kind of do. Did you say you wanted like a captcha thing on our websites, or was I just like imagining that?
Like a web form?
I guess so.
Yeah, like just to get the email from someone.
Oh no, I was like reading the assignment on Schoology, and it said like we're gonna learn how to do like captcha, or like those like little
Captcha code. Yeah,
yeah.
so essentially, yeah, okay. So Divi, I can't really see that. Oh, choose the square. Yeah. So Divi, when you make a contact form, it has you can tick it. It's just a little box in the module for security, but they also have options for CAPTCHA. Thank you for asking this, because CAPTCHA is something that's been locked down by Google. So essentially on that contact form in Divi, if you tick the security box, it'll just show a math problem, and you have to answer the math problem. And that's my minimum expectation, is just you have a security thing, a security bypass on that module, and that's all built in. So it does not have to be a CAPTCHA code. It could just be the math problem.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? How's the experience been with Divi so far?
I really like Divi. Personally, I think it's like pretty easy.
Yeah, oh good, I'm glad you like it. Now, Eden, let's say you like it enough to really learn it well, okay? you could use Divi to build a website and make thousands of dollars off of it. This is one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to learn Divi. So this summer you could say, you know what, I'm going to try to master Divi as much as possible. Okay. You could turn out an entire website for thousands of dollars in half, if not less than half the time it would take you to develop it in Drupal or via just HTML and CSS. So when you think about it that way, you're going to make a lot of money. You could make a lot of money on a website very quickly, and then you hop to your next one, and then the one after that. And you're turning these things out, I don't know, month, less than a month, month and a half, depending on who your clients are, how big their websites are. You could actually make a significant amount of money from that. To give you, and I don't want this to come off as braggadocious, but I say it to prove a very specific point. I've probably made over 100 grand on Divi sites over the past 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And you've got that tool for free, so take advantage of it. Okay, use it to make some money for yourself. Build a get an nest egg going. So I'm glad that you're liking the experience. As the software moves over time, it will become better and better and better and better. So the more you know about it now, the better prepared you'll be later on. Alex, you're not liking it?
I think I just need more practice with it, but for the meantime, there are some parts I like, some parts I want to throw my computer out the window because of it.
Tell me about those parts.
So as we discussed earlier, I had the issue with making the responsive versions of my website because I didn't realize I had to keep clicking the responsive mode over and over again for each different section.
So yeah, so the way that you were doing it, you were building a global header, right? And that global header has to be applied to all the pages. Fine. But yeah, when you are doing that level of custom detail, you got to go through and tick all of the phone icons to get exactly what you want. But glass half empty, yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass. Glass half full, at least you have the options, and the options are relatively easy in comparison to coding them. So stop bitching.
I already had to add additional CSS to some parts of my website. So
Okay. What did you add?
So for one of my tabs on my nav bar, I had to make some extra CSS because it wouldn't expand the text on the dropdown. It would all be like crunched together, or it would like go on multiple lines, and it would be really weird.
Okay.
And the last couple like issues I have are just from how do I really describe it? Like if I have multiple sections in the same area, they'll sometimes overlap with one another, and I won't be able to select one selection or one section because the other one wants to be selected instead.
Okay.
Overall, just small things.
Well, I eagerly anticipate looking at your site. Anybody else? Okay. So I see Emily and Malia, you submitted your work. That's great. I'm finishing all the grades tomorrow for projects that were submitted. So please stay tuned on that. If you turned in your project, your final already, I will grade that, and then you can get the semester behind you. So otherwise, I'll look to the 29th to get your work submitted. And then if you submit it on the 29th, I'll have it done the next day. This whole week is just going to be grading for me. So, yep, there we go. All right. So if there's nothing else that on your mind or you want to talk about, I will let you guys go. And I'd just like to say this was an unconventional semester for me. I prefer to be in the brick and mortar room with you guys. I know that some of that was not possible for some of you, myself included, being a disabled person and being terrified of COVID. So I'm grateful for your patience and your willingness to do this online. And please stay in touch. I have students from last semester and the semester before that, staying in touch with me, and I'm happy to send opportunities your way, especially if you're graduating. Please stay in touch, and I'll try to find projects and jobs that I think you might be a good fit for. But then also, if you just want me to check out your portfolio or check out your resume, I'm absolutely more than happy, willing to do that for you at any time. I still have students that I talked to that I had 12 years ago, and I still help them through their careers. So please lean on me if you are so inspired to do so. Otherwise, thank you for your hard work and have a good summer. Stay in touch. And if you have any questions between now and the due date for this project, please let me know. If you have questions on your finals, or I'm sorry, not your finals, but all the grades, let me know and I can address those. But otherwise, yeah, we are good to go. And yes, Genesis, I'll stick around. And if any of you want to talk to me privately one-on-one, just stick around and I can do some breakout rooms. So otherwise, enjoy your evening, get back to work, and I'll look for your finals.
Wait, are you doing interactive graphic design 2 in the fall?
Great question. I believe